The evening sun poured its golden light through the wide windows of the luxurious mansion, casting soft glows across the spacious bedroom. The walls were painted in calm baby blue, and stuffed animals lined the shelves. On the far side of the room, near the open window, stood Monica barefoot, her white and black nanny uniform clinging softly to her body as she danced slowly to a tune she hummed herself. Her smile was full, genuine, and free. Her eyes sparkled with warmth as she twirled gently on her toes, one hand in the air like a ballerina. Her neatly packed bun bounced with every graceful sway. She looked like a dream, yet it wasn't about elegance. Her movements weren't meant to impress anyone. They were meant to heal. Lying quietly in his wheelchair, 8-year-old Jerry sat watching her again. His big, brown eyes were wide open, following her every step like she was magic. And to him, she was. This had become their ritual. Every night, Monica danced for him. No loud music, no lights, no crowd. Just the soft sound of her voice and her feet brushing the floor. It was always the same. She'd twirl, sway her hips, sometimes stomp playfully or mimic a robot. And every time, Jerry laughed. The boy who doctors said needed more joy. The boy who hadn't stood since birth. The boy whose muscles were fine, but whose heart had locked him away in fear. Jerry had never walked, not once. The doctors had checked everything. They found no medical problem. His spine was perfect, bones normal, blood work clean. But Jerry never stood. He never tried. Until Monica came. On this particular night, something was different. Monica wasn't just dancing. She was doing it with an extra bit of mischief, pretending to walk like a toddler. She stumbled on purpose, waving her arms wildly, then pouted like a baby trying to balance. Jerry giggled. She did it again, this time with a bounce in her knees, acting like she was learning to walk for the first time. Then she clapped her hands and said playfully, "Come on, Jerry, you can walk too. Dance with me." Jerry's smile grew. He looked down at his feet. His tiny toes wiggled inside his socks. Then, without a sound, he reached forward. His small fingers clutched the arms of his wheelchair. He took a deep breath. And then, he pulled. Monica paused mid-step when she heard the soft sound of the wheelchair creaking. She turned and gasped. Jerry was standing. Unsteady, knees shaking like jelly, but standing. Her hand flew to her mouth. She didn't want to scare him. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She just watched. And Jerry took a step. 1 foot forward. He paused, wobbling. Another foot forward. He looked up at Monica with bright eyes. "I'm walking," he whispered. A tear slipped down Monica's cheek. She forced a trembling smile, nodding slowly. "You're walking," she whispered back. Then, the bedroom door creaked open. Donald stood at the doorway, dressed in his flawless white kaftan. The red Igbo cap on his head looked heavy now, as his eyes locked on the scene in front of him. He didn't move. He couldn't. It felt like the earth had tilted. There, right in the center of the room, his only son who had never taken a step, was now walking with wobbling legs, reaching toward the woman dancing for him every night. "Jerry," Donald's voice cracked. Is this you?" The boy turned slowly toward the voice. His steps were slow, unsure, but he didn't stop. He walked step by step toward his father, and when he reached him, Donald dropped to his knees and pulled him into his arms, holding him as tightly as he could, without breaking him. He cried, right there. Tears streamed down his cheeks, tears he had held in for 8 years. The years of fear, guilt, frustration, and helplessness melted in that embrace. Monica stood frozen. Her eyes burned with emotion. Her lips trembled. She lowered herself quietly to the floor, overwhelmed. She didn't want to interrupt. This was their moment. She had only been a vessel. After a long silence, Donald looked up, still holding his son tightly. He whispered, thank you, Monica. Thank you for this miracle." She smiled faintly, still on her knees. "He did it," she said softly. "I only danced." That night, the entire mansion stayed awake. The staff whispered in awe. Security guards peeped from corners. The cook cried in the kitchen. Everyone had known Jerry as the boy in the wheelchair. But tonight, Jerry walked. By sunrise, the miracle had spread through every corner of the house. Donald sat at the living room table, reading emails, trying to pretend he was working, but all he could think of was last night. He replayed it over and over again in his head, how his son's legs moved, how his laughter filled the room. For the first time in years, Donald felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Then, light footsteps echoed. Donald looked up and nearly choked on his tea. Jerry was walking across the room, all by himself, little legs carrying him with more balance this time. He wore a blue t-shirt and shorts. His smile beamed like sunlight. "Good morning, Daddy," he said. Donald dropped his cup and stood. He didn't say anything. He simply opened his arms again. Jerry ran into them. Monica stood at the door behind, arms crossed, a small smile on her face. She had tears in her eyes, but this time they were tears of pride. That evening, as the sun set, Monica was invited to Donald's study. The room smelled of leather, books, and old cigars. Donald sat behind his polished desk, watching her closely. He leaned forward. "Who exactly are you, Monica?" he asked. She blinked, confused. "Sir? I never asked. I didn't care much when you applied. I thought you were like the rest. But you're not. Who are you really?" Monica sat down slowly and began to speak. And what she told him next would change everything. The room was silent, so silent you could hear the antique wall clock ticking. Donald leaned forward in his chair, elbows resting on his mahogany desk. His gaze remained fixed on Monica, as if studying something he hadn't quite figured out. For the first time, he looked beyond her nanny uniform, beyond the apron, beyond the quiet smile she always wore, and saw a woman cloaked in mystery. Monica sat opposite him, her hands folded neatly on her lap. She took a slow breath. "You really want to know who I am, sir?" Donald nodded slowly. "Please." She looked up, her voice steady but quiet. "My name is Monica Chukwudi. I was born and raised in Nsuka. I'm the only child of my parents. My dad, he died when I was 15. Car accident. We were on our way to church. I survived. He didn't." Donald's brows furrowed slightly. "My mum died 6 months later. Stroke. I guess it was the grief," Monica continued, her eyes glazing over. "After that, my uncles and aunties all disappeared. Some even told me straight to my face they couldn't carry another responsibility." She gave a faint, sad smile. "I was 15, alone, no one to turn to. But I made myself a promise that no matter what, I would survive. I would make my parents proud." Donald remained silent, his eyes locked on hers. "I worked small jobs during secondary school, sold sachet water after class, cleaned offices on weekends. Anything to pay my WAEC fees. I got admitted into the University of Nigeria to study accountancy. That was my biggest dream, to wear a suit and sit behind a big desk someday." She paused, emotion flickering across her face. "I graduated top 3 in my class. I had distinctions in all my major courses. I thought everything would change after that. But it didn't." Donald frowned. "What happened?" "No one would hire me," she said plainly. "I applied to dozens of firms. Every interview went the same. You're brilliant, Monica. You're smart, you're confident, you're qualified. But they never called back." "Why?" She looked at him. "Because I didn't know anyone. I had no connections, no uncle to recommend me, no powerful last name, just my CV and my dreams." Donald sat back, his jaw tightening. This story wasn't new to him. In the Nigerian corporate world, merit rarely won. It was all about who you knew. "I was running out of money," Monica said. "Then I saw this job. Nanny wanted. Everyone around me said not to apply, that it was beneath me. A university graduate with distinction, working as a nanny." She let out a small laugh. "But something told me to go for it. Something told me this job wasn't just a job." Donald looked at her now with entirely different eyes. "And you took care of Jerry like he was your own." "I didn't know how else to do it," Monica said. "He reminded me of myself trapped. Everyone said he couldn't walk, but something in my heart kept saying, no, he can. He just needs someone to believe in him. Silence settled over the study. Donald slowly stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the backyard, where Jerry was chasing butterflies with one of the house helps, his tiny legs moving with surprising speed. He turned back to Monica. "My son has never smiled the way he's smiled these past 2 weeks," he said. "He laughs now. He runs. He dreams. You gave him that." Monica said nothing. Then Donald walked back to his desk and pulled open a drawer. He brought out a folder and pushed it toward her. "Open it." Monica hesitated, then did as he said. Inside was a contract. Her eyes widened. "Personal financial consultant," she read aloud, blinking. "I want you on my team," Donald said. "Not as a nanny. Not anymore. As my personal financial advisor. You'll manage my accounts, assist in strategy, handle corporate budgeting. I'll train you where needed, and pay you what you're worth." Monica stared at him, speechless. "I've seen your credentials," Donald continued. "I asked my assistant to check the moment Jerry walked. You're even smarter than you look on paper. I need someone like you on my team." Tears welled in Monica's eyes. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," he said with a small smile. "And call me Donald, not sir. That ended the moment you performed a miracle in my house." Monica nodded, overwhelmed. "Yes, Donald. Yes." That moment marked the beginning of something neither of them could have predicted. Days passed, then weeks. Monica transitioned smoothly from nanny to financial consultant. In meetings, Donald watched her with admiration. She spoke clearly, made bold suggestions, and quickly proved to be the smartest voice in the room. They spent long hours together, late-night phone calls, weekend planning sessions, business trips around the country. Jerry, now walking confidently, became her biggest cheerleader. But it wasn't just work. Sometimes it was the quiet moments between them, the shared laughter, the subtle glances, the way Monica would forget to remove her glasses and Donald would tease her gently, the way she'd scold him about overspending, and he'd grin like a guilty schoolboy. Feelings began to grow, but both kept it buried, unsure, until one night. It was a cool evening in the mansion's garden. The stars were out. The air smelled of jasmine. Donald stood under the garden lights, dressed in a crisp, navy blue outfit. In his hand was a small velvet box. Monica walked out, wearing a simple blue dress. Jerry, now 15, was hiding behind the garden hedge with a camera in his hand, smiling, waiting. Donald turned to Monica. "Monica, I've learned a lot from you. Not just about business, but about life, about faith, about hope. You didn't just heal my son. You healed me too." He got down on one knee and opened the box. "Will you marry me?" Monica gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. From behind the hedge, Jerry burst out laughing and ran toward them. "Say yes! Say yes!" Tears streamed down Monica's cheeks. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Donald, I will." Jerry threw his arms around them both. In that garden, under the stars, a broken man, a forgotten woman, and a once paralyzed boy became a family. But something unexpected was coming. Something from Monica's past. Someone who had tried to erase her. And now, they wanted in. The morning sun cast a golden hue over the mansion's driveway. Monica stood by the balcony, twin toddlers in her armchair, beautiful blessings. A boy and a girl, just over a year old. Their giggles echoed softly through the compound as she rocked them gently, watching Jerry sprint across the lawn, football at his feet. The world felt perfect, too perfect. She smiled. "Monica!" Donald called from the front door, dressed in a crisp grey suit. "I'll be back by noon. Meeting in Ikoyi." "Okay, drive safe," she replied. He blew her a kiss and hopped into the car. Everything was good. Everything was stable. But as Donald's convoy pulled away, a black Toyota Corolla rolled quietly down the street and parked across from the gate. The engine remained on. The windows were tinted. The driver didn't come out. Inside the house, Monica had no idea that trouble was waiting just beyond the fence. By noon, Jerry was in his study doing homework. The twins were asleep. Monica sat in the kitchen, going over business reports. Since becoming Donald's financial advisor, the empire had nearly doubled in value. New branches had opened in Port Harcourt, Asaba, and even Accra. Her brilliance had become the secret behind Donald's global rise. She leaned over the table, eyes glued to the spreadsheet, until the intercom buzzed. She pressed it. "Yes?" "Madam," said the voice of the gatekeeper nervously. "There's someone here to see you." "Who?" "She say her name is Madam Ifeoma. She say you're her niece." Monica froze. Every muscle in her body went still. She hadn't heard that name in over a decade. Ifeoma, her mother's sister, the same woman who told her at age 15 that she wasn't her responsibility. The same woman who locked her out in the rain the day after her father's funeral. The same woman who once looked her in the eyes and said, "Your problems are too much." Now, she was at her gate. Monica's hands trembled slightly. "Let her in," she said. 2 minutes later, the doorbell rang. She walked slowly to the entrance and opened the door. There stood a woman in her late 50s, dressed in faded Ankara, a cheap handbag clutched under one arm. Her face had aged, but her eyes, those sharp, calculating eyes, had not. "Monica," Ifeoma said with a small, forced smile. "You look good." Monica didn't speak. She stood quietly, arms crossed. "Can I come in?" the woman asked. Monica stepped aside. They sat in the living room. Monica on one end, Ifeoma on the other, eyes scanning the mansion like a scavenger. "Nice place," she muttered. "You married a rich man?" Monica's jaw clenched. "What do you want?" Ifeoma gave a nervous chuckle. No. How have you been?" "No." "Auntie, you look younger than your age?" "Nothing." Monica didn't smile. "You didn't come here for greetings. Why are you here?" The older woman sighed and shifted in her seat. "Fine. Straight to the point. Monica, I need help. Things have been hard. My son is in trouble debt. Serious one. If we don't pay, they'll lock him up. I need just a small loan. 5 million naira. Just 5. Monica blinked. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. "You need help? Please. Where were you when I needed help? When I was starving in a face, face, you room? When I was begging people to let me clean gutters just to buy textbooks, where were you then?" Ifeoma dropped her head. "I know I failed you, but I'm still your blood." Monica stood up. "No, you're not. Monica, you lost that title the day you watched me cry and turned away. I was 15. 15. And you left me in the street." There was a long silence. Then Ifeoma's tone changed. She looked up with cold eyes. "You think because you're in this big house now, you're better than me? Don't forget if your father hadn't died, you'd still be nothing. You think you're smart? You think you built this yourself? You just got lucky." Monica clenched her fists. "Leave. Now. You'll regret this," Ifeoma hissed as she stood. "I know people. You're not the only one who can rise." Monica walked to the door and opened it. "Go." And just before the woman stepped out, she turned and said one last thing that chilled Monica to the bone. "You think this man loves you? Wait until he finds out what I know." Then she walked away. That night, Monica sat alone in the garden. She didn't tell Donald what happened. She couldn't. But her mind kept racing. What did Ifeoma mean by "what I know"? What could she possibly reveal? She thought her past was clean, honest. Unless it was about her father's accident. She remembered things differently. The car, the screams, her father's last words. Was there something she didn't know? Or worse, something someone hid from her? Inside the house, Donald watched her from the window. She looked distant, lost in thought. Not the Monica he knew. He reached for his phone. He needed answers too. Because that afternoon, he had received a message from an anonymous number. It read, "You don't know the real Monica? Ask her about Nsuka." Ask her about the night her father died. Donald hadn't told her. Not yet. But he would, because he needed to know who his wife truly was, and if her past could destroy their future. Thunder rolled softly in the distance as Monica stood at the edge of the garden, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. The wind picked up, rustling the flowers Donald had planted for her months ago. She stared out into the darkening sky, but her thoughts were far away back in Nsuka, back to a night she had tried hard to forget. Inside the mansion, Donald paced his study restlessly. He had not confronted Monica yet, not directly. The message from the anonymous number still burned in his mind. You don't know the real Monica? Ask her about Nsuka. Ask her about the night her father died. He couldn't ignore it anymore. But he also couldn't shake the guilt of not trusting the woman who gave his son a miracle and gave him a second chance at love. Still, he had to know. That night, after the twins had been tucked into bed and Jerry retreated to his room, Donald found Monica still sitting outside, her face pale under the garden lights. Monica, he said gently, pulling a chair beside her. She didn't turn. I've been thinking, she murmured, about Nsuka, about my dad, about the accident. Donald paused. Monica turned to him slowly. Do you believe people can bury pain so deep that even they forget it ever happened? He looked into her eyes. Yes, I do. There was silence. Then she spoke again. Her voice was barely a whisper. I don't think it was an accident. Donald sat up. What do you mean? My father's death, she said. I think someone planned it. Or at least, someone caused it. Donald's chest tightened. Why do you think that? Monica stared ahead. Because the day he died, he wasn't supposed to be in that car. Flashback, 14 years ago. 15-year-old Monica sat on the front step of their small compound, hugging her backpack. Her father, Chief Obi Chukwudi, had just walked back into the house to grab his Bible. He was late for service, but he didn't like going alone. I'll wait, he had said. Get ready fast. But Monica had a stomachache that morning. She told him to go ahead, that she would come later with her mother. He kissed her forehead and smiled. Okay, my love. I'll see you in church. She waved. 15 minutes later, a loud crash rang through the streets. Then the screams. Then silence. By the time neighbors brought her to the scene, her father's car was wrapped around a tree. His driver was gone. Her father lifeless. No witnesses. No explanation. Only that he had swerved off the road. I always believed the driver ran, Monica said, her voice breaking. But something about that day never made sense. Later that year, I found out my father had been arguing with his brother-me uncle over some land documents. A large sum was involved. And after my dad's death, everything disappeared. The property, the documents, the cash, even the house was taken from us. Donald listened quietly. My uncle vanished. My aunt, Ifeoma, pretended to help, but slowly pushed us away. Then Mum died, and I was alone. She turned to him. Donald, what if my father's death wasn't an accident? What if the people who left me to suffer also made me suffer? He reached for her hand. Then we find out the truth. But why now? She asked. Why is Ifeoma suddenly back? Why are these threats coming now? Donald exhaled deeply. Because someone has something to lose now. You're not a forgotten orphan anymore. You're my wife. You manage my accounts. You're powerful. And someone feels threatened by that. He stood. We're going to Nsuka. Tomorrow. You and me. We'll find out everything. The next morning, they boarded Donald's private jet. Jerry, now in high school, waved from the runway with the twins in his arms. Monica held Donald's hand tightly as the plane rose into the clouds. 2 hours later, they landed in Enugu, and a black SUV drove them through the quiet countryside to the old town of Nsuka. It hadn't changed much. Dusty roads, old signboards, memories hiding behind every corner. They pulled up to the compound where Monica had grown up. It was now a mechanic's shop, repainted and rebranded. No trace of her family's history remained except for the rusted gate and the mango tree she once climbed as a child. Donald stepped out first. Are you ready? Monica nodded. Inside the compound, an elderly man named Baba Kunle, former neighbor, recognized her immediately. "Ah, Monica? Monica Chukwudi? My God, look at you," he said, hugging her tight. Tears welled in Monica's eyes. "Uncle Kunle, you remember me? Who could forget you? After everything that happened? Your father was a good man, a very good man. It broke us when he died." Donald stepped forward. "Sir, do you remember anything about his accident?" Baba Kunle went quiet. Then he said, "You should speak to Mama Nkechi. She saw something that day, but no one ever listened to her. They found Mama Nkechi seated under a tree in front of her house. She was blind now, but her memory was sharp." "You say you're Obi's daughter?" she asked, her voice thin. "Yes, Ma," Monica said, kneeling. "Please, I need to know what happened." The old woman took a deep breath. "I saw them," she said. "The night before the accident. Your father's brother Chief Okezi and that Ifioma woman. They came to your house after you had gone to bed. I was outside across the road," they argued. "Okezi was shouting about land. Your father refused to sell." Monica gasped. "My uncle?" "Yes. And the next morning, your father was dead. I told people. No one listened. No one wanted trouble with Okezi." Donald's jaw tightened. "Is he still alive?" Mama Nkechi shook her head. "He died last year. But Ifioma, she's been fighting to get into your father's property again. Now I see why." Monica sat still. Her father had been killed. For land. For greed. And Ifioma had stood by. Maybe even helped. Everything began to make sense. The sudden visit. The veiled threats. The 5 million naira request. She wasn't just begging. She was warning. Back at the hotel, Monica sat quietly on the bed, holding an old picture of her father. Donald placed a hand on her shoulder. "We're going to fight this," he said. "I'll hire the best legal team. We'll recover every inch of what was stolen." But Monica wasn't listening, because at that moment, her phone lit up. A message from a blocked number. "You should have helped me when I asked. Now your secrets will be public. Say goodbye to your fairy tale." And attached was a video clip, one that could destroy everything. Monica stared at the screen, her fingers trembling. The video file had no title, just a timestamp. The moment she tapped on it, the screen lit up with grainy footage. For a second, all she heard was the sound of wind. Then, the image cleared. It was her, Monica, 15 years old, skinny, in a faded school uniform, sitting on the dusty floor of Ifeoma's corridor, crying, her eyes swollen, her voice shaking. "I have nowhere to go," the younger Monica sobbed in the video. "I swear I didn't know they were planning anything. I didn't know Uncle Okezi wanted Daddy dead. I didn't know." The camera shifted slightly. Another voice off screen, female. "You were there the night it happened, Monica. You heard them. And you said nothing." "I was scared," young Monica cried. "Please don't tell anyone. I just want to live. I want to survive." The screen froze on her face, helpless, scared, stained with tears. And then the video ended. Silence filled the hotel room. Donald sat across from her, his face unreadable. Monica's hands slowly lowered the phone onto the table. Her lips were parted, but no words came out. The color drained from her face. "Donald," she finally whispered. "It's not what it looks like." He didn't speak. "I didn't know they were serious. I didn't think they'd really kill him. I was just a child. I heard them arguing, yes, but I didn't understand what it meant. I didn't think it would lead to that." Donald leaned forward slowly, his elbows on his knees, eyes locked on hers. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" Monica's voice cracked. "Because I buried it. I didn't want to believe I was there. I didn't want to remember. For years I convinced myself I didn't hear anything, that it was just noise, that I wasn't part of it." Tears ran down her cheeks. "I lived with that guilt every day. I hated myself. I hated my silence. But what could a scared little girl do? Who would have believed me over a powerful man like Okezi?" Donald looked away for a moment, running a hand down his face. "Someone sent this to destroy you," he said finally. To ruin everything we've built. Monica nodded. It's Ifioma. She recorded that video herself. I remember now. That night, after Daddy's funeral, she called me in. I thought she wanted to comfort me, but she had her phone hidden. She told me to confess everything I knew. She said it was for my healing, but she kept the recording. She must have saved it all these years. Donald stood and walked to the window. She's trying to blackmail you. She threatened me that day. She said if I didn't help her, she'd expose me. But I didn't think she had proof. Well, she does, Donald said. And now she's going to use it. He turned back to Monica, walked to her, and gently cupped her face. Look at me. She did. You didn't kill your father. You were a child. And no one will use that moment to tear you down. But if that video leaks, then we'll fight it, he said firmly. Together. The next morning, Monica and Donald returned to Lagos. But the damage had already begun. Anonymous blogs picked up the story, Wife of Billionaire CEO may be linked to father's death. Clips of the video appeared on WhatsApp groups. Rumors spread like wildfire. Investors pulled out. Brand sponsors withdrew. Jerry's school called concerned parents were asking questions. Everything Monica had built was crashing. She locked herself in her room for a whole day, refusing to speak. Not to Donald, not to the twins, not even to Jerry. It was Jerry who broke the silence. That night, he came in, holding his high school trophy. Mum, he said, softly, I brought this for you. She didn't turn. I won Best Science Student, he continued. They almost didn't give it to me today. Some parents protested because of the rumors. Monica sat up slowly, her eyes filled with tears. Jerry, I'm so sorry. But I told them, he interrupted. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't even be walking, let alone winning trophies. I don't care what people say. I love you, and you're my hero. Monica broke down into quiet sobs, and Jerry wrapped his arms around her. Outside the door, Donald listened, wiping a tear from his eye. 3 days later, Donald held a press conference. He stood behind the podium, Monica at his side, hand in hand. Yes, the video is real, Donald said. But it does not prove guilt. It proves that a child was cornered, terrified, and manipulated. Monica is not a criminal. She is a survivor. And more than that, she's the woman who gave my son a second chance at life. He turned to Monica and smiled. I stand with her. This family stands with her. And if anyone thinks this storm will shake our foundation, they don't know Monica. Applause echoed from the hall. The tide began to shift. One by one, supporters stepped forward. Clients returned. Brands issued apologies. Jerry's school gave him a special award for courage. The world watched a woman rise from shame and turn it into strength. Months passed. Ifioma was arrested for fraud after a separate investigation exposed her involvement in a property scam. She never saw it coming. Monica reclaimed her father's land, now worth hundreds of millions. But she didn't sell it. Instead, she built a scholarship foundation for orphans so that no child would ever feel as alone as she did. And on a bright Saturday afternoon, Monica stood proudly as Jerry, now 18, graduated from aviation school as the best student in his class. At the edge of the runway, their private jet waited. Inside, Donald sat beside Monica, holding her hand. Thank you, he said quietly, as the jet prepared for takeoff. For coming into my life. For healing my son. For showing me what strength really looks like. Monica smiled, tears in her eyes. And thank you, she whispered, for seeing me, not as a poor nanny, but as the woman I truly am. The jet lifted into the sky, cutting through clouds like the future they had built strong, unstoppable, and free. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.